Thank you for coming today. My name is Jose Garcia. I am an attorney representing the government of Venezuela in its request of June 15, 2005 to the United States for the extradition of Luis Posada Carriles. Mr. Posada Carriles is under indictment and subject to a fugitive warrant in Venezuela in relation to 73 counts of first-degree murder related to the downing of a passenger plane on October 6, 1976. The only response thus far that the U.S. State Department has given Venezuela since our extradition request was a diplomatic note dated November 9, 2006, wherein the government informed us that it would soon be sending us some questions about the case. We have yet to receive those questions for a response to our request for extradition. Earlier this month, in Miami, Posada Carriles spoke to a group of 500 supporters at a private club called the Big Five. During his talk, Posada called again for violence. He said, "We must not wait for Fidel Castro to die or Raúl to make mistakes. Liberty is not something we must beg for. It is conquered with the sharp edge of the machete. We ask God to sharpen our machetes because difficult times are arriving." It is outrageous that the U.S. government allows this convicted terrorist to live freely in Miami and incite his followers to further violence. It is outrageous that the U.S. government refuses to invoke the Patriot Act and lock him up. It is outrageous that the U.S. government refuses to abide by its international treaty obligations and extradite Posada Carriles to Venezuela or prosecute him in this country for murder. In response to Posada's recent calls for violence in Miami, the government of Venezuela delivered a diplomatic note to the State Department on May 7, 2008, expressing its deep concerns that the U.S. government permits Posada to make incendiary calls to violence while he has pending legal charges in Venezuela against him for terrorism. In the diplomatic note, Venezuela once again asks the United States government to exercise an extradition detainer against him and to commence the process of extradition. We have yet to receive a response. Yesterday, we learned that Posada Carriles' principal financial benefactor and accomplice in many terrorist acts, a man by the name of Santiago Alvarez Fernandez Mariña, sends money to dissidents in Cuba, allegedly through the head of the U.S. interest section in Cuba, Michael Parnay. Santiago Alvarez is the person who illegally smuggled Posada Carriles aboard the yacht Santina to the United States in March of 2005. Santiago Alvarez participated in a terrorist action in Boca de Sama in Cuba on October 12, 1971, which caused the deaths of 2 persons and a little girl to lose her leg. Although not present with him in Panama at the time, he helped Posada Carriles with the logistics of trying to blow up a university auditorium using C4 explosives in Panama in the year 2000. He financed Posada's legal defense in Panama and sent a plane to Tucumán Airport in Panama to spirit him out of Panama into Haiti in Honduras. On April 26, 2001, Alvarez financed and directed a small group of terrorists who infiltrated the province of Villa Clara in Cuba with the purpose of setting up bombs there. His voice can be heard on a tape recording with one of the terrorists he sent to Cuba recommending that the terrorists set off 2 cans of explosives against the popular Tropicana nightclub in Havana. Santiago Alvarez is now in prison in this country for possession of a large arsenal of weapons in Broward County. That's in Florida. These included automatic weapons, grenades, grenade launchers, silencers, anti-gas masks, and other materials. During this post-9/11 era, this terrorist was given a measly 16 months in prison for possession of a sophisticated weapons arsenal in his warehouse. What concerns Venezuela in all of this is that the United States government, rather than extraditing the terrorist Posada Carriles, not only protects him and allows him to call others to violence in Miami, but allegedly also sends its chief diplomat in Havana to deliver money to dissidents in Cuba from a private individual who is none other than Posada Carrillo' accomplice and principal financial benefactor for decades. This shows a degree of complicity by the U.S. government that ought to be investigated by an independent Justice Department investigator as well as by corresponding congressional committees. Issues that would need to be resolved are: 1, why the United States government has thus far ignored Venezuela's request for extradition. 2, why the United States government refuses to exercise an extradition detainer against Posada or to invoke the Patriot Act to keep him in jail rather than allow him to make incendiary calls to violence in Miami. And 3, whether, if true, it is legal for a U.S. diplomat, indeed the highest ranking U.S. diplomat in Cuba, to serve as a courier of dollars from a private individual who is Posada Carrillo's accomplice and principal financial benefactor and a convicted terrorist to boot to dissidents in Cuba. And before sitting down, I just want to call your attention to some of these photographs that we have behind us. Those are the victims of the plane that Posada Carrillo down on October 6, 1976. Many of them were members of the Cuban fencing team. We don't have a picture of a little Guyanese girl who was 9 years old, who was also killed aboard that plane. One of the pictures shows Nancy Uranga. I'm going to move over here. That woman there, Nancy Uranga, was pregnant at the time. So really, there were 73 passengers and an unborn baby aboard that plane. These are the kinds of people that Posada Carrillo wishes others to sharpen their machetes against. These are the true terrorists, people like Posada Carrillo, Santiago Alvarez, that need to be brought to justice. I know that ANSWER has been working very closely on this campaign to free the Cuban Five, and people ask me over and over again, what is the connection between the Cuban Five and Posada Carrillo? Well, Posada Carrillo is the raison d'etre for the Cuban Five. He is the reason for their being. The reason that the Cuban Five were sent to the United States is because the campaign of terror that was directed against Cuba for decades from Miami wasn't being stopped by the U.S. government. And Cuba felt, perhaps innocently, but they felt that if they could acquire proof as to who was financing and directing this campaign of terror, that the FBI will do what its charter obligates it to do, namely to arrest and prosecute the terrorists. Cuba sent these 5 programs to the United States to acquire that evidence. They acquired it. Cuba handed that evidence over to the FBI. And the FBI used that evidence not to go after the terrorists and arrest them, but to find out who had provided that information and that evidence to Cuba and arrest them. They arrested the Cuban Five, prosecuted them, and gave them 3 of them life sentences, 1 of them a double life sentence, to people that had never engaged in an act of terrorism, had never engaged in an act of violence, didn't have in their possession any weapons, didn't have in their possession or ever tried to get any classified documents. That's the double-edged policy of fighting terrorism that is going on in Washington today. And the government of Venezuela wishes that the U.S. government immediately begin extradition proceedings against Posada so he can be tried in a court of law for 73 counts of first-degree murder. Thank you.